are changing, we're flying high, creating a complaint-free world, no more.
We're continuing this idea of me addressing issues that you are facing, you telling me challenges you're having, etc., saying, hey, please talk about this, please jumpstart this. And I apologize, I can see your face and I don't want to say your name because I know I'm going to get it wrong, but I know you and you're here all the time, but somebody said that they wanted me to jumpstart relationships in general. Because I've done several jump starts on relationship. If you look back, you'll find that many of my jump starts have been on relationships because it's something that we all struggle with. And in my book, Complaint-Free Relationships, I talk about the fact that people are our greatest gift. People are also our greatest curse. Because if you think about most of the challenges that you're having in your life, they involve a person. If this person would do this differently or would resolve things this way, etc., etc., etc. And so our challenge is to work with and deal with other people. Now, again, I want to be very clear up front that this is not something that I was born in any way knowing how to do. And in fact, I was modeled how to have bad relationships with people. It amazed me how my dad especially would blow through friendships. People would be as great as friends one day and then, I don't like that son of a you know what, the next day. And I could not understand that. And so what was modeled for me was not healthy relationships. However, if you think about it, you want to have good relationships with everybody. I mean that sincerely. So when I talk about relationships, I really am talking about everybody. I'm talking about everybody you come in contact. And I mean someone that you talk to at the dry cleaners, someone that you interact with while you're trying to get your internet taken care of, a waiter or waitress at a restaurant. And I am also, of course, talking about your children and talking about your employees and talking about the significant other person in your life. We tend to want to isolate one type of relationship and say that we need to adopt certain behaviors and attitudes to improve that type of relationship, certain types of behaviors and attitudes in that relationship, certain behaviors and attitudes in this type of relationship, all depending on whether or not we are a parent in this relationship, a child in this relationship, etc. I want to share with you specifically because someone asked me, talk about relationships in general. And I want to share with you some things that you can do starting today that are going to improve all of your relationships. Number one, I want you to remember that there are not different types of relationships, at least not in the context of what we're going to talk about. We're going to simplify things down. Instead of saying, like I said, all these different types for different relationships, just consider that it is one human being relating. That's where the term relationship comes from. You are in a relatingship, your relationship. So it's one individual, one human being working and relating with another person, I have said before, and one of the things I've committed to doing is to be very honest about myself and about my life. And you all know that I just got divorced for the third time, not the first, not the second, not the third time. You probably wonder, as I did and as my family did, what happened? What went wrong? And the answer is, and I'm going to be very honest and hear me out as I say this, here's what went wrong. Me. And until you have that kind of responsibility in your relationships, which means able to respond, in other words, until you say, what went wrong in my relationship with my daughter? Me. What went wrong in my relationship with my dog? Me. We need to accept full responsibility in our relationships. We tend to do what Earl Nightingale used to say, that people would, it's like sitting in front of a fireplace saying, give me warmth first and then I'll give you wood. We need to own the responsibility of our relationships. They're ours. If a different person was in your relationships with the same people that you have relationships, they would be very different relationships. So, let me give you some very practical tips of things that I've discovered, and that it's taken me 3 divorces to realize a lot of these things. And I've shared this with you before. Now, what's interesting is that the more I've worked on my romantic relationships and being a better partner in romantic relationships, the better I've been with Teddy, my dog. The better I've been with my daughter. The better I've been with business people, etc. So again, consider that there's one relationship, and that's a human relationship you want to work on. And the first tip I want to give you is that avoid arguments, be agreeable. Avoid arguments, be agreeable. In my family, it was argue, bicker, 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 bicker. You know how we know we love you? It's when we insult you. Seriously. That's not real world. That's not what people want. And at your core, that's not what you want. So work to be agreeable. Now, that doesn't mean that you agree with everything the other person says. For example, I've got several people in my life who are politically the opposite of me, okay? And that is okay. They don't have to agree with me. I agree with their right to have their opinion. That's all it is. Be agreeable. But it doesn't mean giving up and giving over who you are. What that means is not arguing with someone else, saying that if I were in your place, I'd feel exactly the same way. Agree with their right and with the fact that they have that opinion. You know, I totally can see how you would see it that way. That's what you want to say. I can totally see how you could see it that way. Or if I was in your place, I would feel exactly the same way. So that's one of the ways, is to be agreeable, not agreeing like, yes, you're right, yes, you're right. Agreeing that the other person has every right to feel as he or she does. The second thing is givers get. In relationships, givers get. Let me share 2 quick stories, which are basically the same story, that have taught me a lot. Many of you know that I have a regular prayer practice with my friend Brian. What does that mean? We started more than, good God, it's been over 11 years ago, I think now. Every Thursday we get together. It used to be live when I was in Kansas City. Now it's on Zoom or on the phone. And we share what's going on in our life, our challenges, our great things, and we literally take turns. One of us goes first and then the other one goes second. And we share what's going on, and then we say, and so my prayer request would be blah, that my wife and I resolve this issue, or my children and I have a happy time this weekend, or I find a new car. It can be anything, right? Now, I realize, because Brian's a really nice guy and he's very good with people, that for the first 5 or 6 years we'd get together, and guess who always went first? Me. Me. Finally, it occurred to me that if Brian wanted to continue to do this and to be part of this, I would imagine that because a lot of times I would go first over something I thought was really important, and then he would share something far more important, like a sick parent or something like that. And I resolved to turn it around, to be the giver and not the getter. And I try to do that in my relationships. I try to be the giver and not the getter, because givers end up getting. When you give, you create goodwill, you make the other person feel important, and that leads me to my third point, and that is, I've written these down. It's not about what you say or do. It's about how you make the other person feel. I can tell you that, unfortunately, that's true as a motivational speaker or as a professional speaker. And I say unfortunately because so often I think that everything that comes out of my mouth, because it's so well researched, etc., 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 should just somehow burn 100% into my audience's brain. It never happens. Nothing like that happens. It doesn't burn into people's brain. They remember some of the things, and I worked very diligently to make people want to remember the 5 reasons people complain and what to say, GRIPE. And I make sure that people get that. But you know what they really walk away with? How I made them feel. How I made them feel. Did I make them feel happy? Did I make them feel energized? Did I make them feel engaged? Did I make them feel inspired, like they can do it? Did I give them hope? So what if those were your goals when you were talking to the people in your life? To make them feel good. And again, this is not about people pleasing. It's about making people feel good. My ex-wife's daughter is probably the most popular person I've ever known. Everybody who knows her loves her, and lots of people know her. And one of the things I noticed about her was that within 60 seconds of talking to you for the first time in a given day, she is going to say, I like something about you. I like the way you handled that situation last night. I like your shoes. I like the fact that you always smile on your JumpStarts. I like the blue lights behind your, just a little something. We are all desperate for approval. If you want to know how to work with relationships in general, understand that we're all wanting approval. And if you can make people feel good by simply saying, I like the choice you made here. I like, that. I like this. We so rarely use the word like, which is a positive word. We so often use and talk about what's wrong. That's why people have gotten so excited about this complaint-free movement, because they are tired of being around other people and feeling like, oh gosh, you know what an energy vampire chronic complainers are. And so when we then become the person who brings life to the connection, life to the relationship, the other person begins to bring it as well. Remember, there aren't different types of relationships. Everything I've shared with you today, I'm working to do with my dog, my daughter, and the woman I'm dating. The 3 Ds. And let me recap them for you. I'm going to pull up my notes from this morning. I love to get up. I got up at 5:50 this morning to write this. Yeah, cray. Avoid arguments. Be agreeable. And that means let the other person have their rights to feel and think the way they do without trying to change him or her. Number 2, givers get. Remember, allow other people to go first. Ask people about what's going on in their lives rather than talking about what's going on in yours. I said that I was going to tell you 2 stories and I only told you 1. I'm sure you caught it. Here's the second one. I have an assistant named John Gatimu. John lives in Kenya. Because of remote work, John can work anywhere in the world. John was born and grew up in Kenya. Now, John has worked for me for probably 8 years, and he's done a really good job. For probably 4 of those years, I knew his name was John, but I didn't know if he was married, had children, etc., etc., etc. And finally, I was like, this is crazy. Would I do this with someone who worked with me here in the United States? No. So I scheduled regular Zoom calls, and now John sends me regular pictures. He's his wife, and he had a baby named Faith, and he's been sending me regular pictures so I can see how Faith is doing, and his son, Raphael. And I feel like he's part of my family, and I feel like I'm part of his. And as a result, there's that good feeling. And that's that third thing that we want to leave you with. And that is, leave people feeling good. Make your objective to make people feel good in your presence. And you know the number one way you do that? You smile. You smile. You smile when you're around people. Human beings have only one way of showing warmth, and that is to smile. When I was talking earlier and I said, what went wrong in my marriage? And I said, me, 100% me. One of the things that I realize is that when I'm in the middle of writing, or I'm in the middle of planning some sort of promotional opportunity with someone, or I'm working on a custom speech for a client, I get very intense. And I always thought that made me look smart and important. And my wife would be at home and I would walk around like this all the time, looking smart and important. There's another name for that. It's called a scowl. It's called a scowl, and nobody wants to be around it. One of the things I attempt to do, don't always succeed, but I try when I'm passing someone I care about in the hallway, when I'm working with my daughter, is to smile. Put a smile on your face. My daughter always starts out our conversations wonderfully. She sets the bar for the tone of the relationship. You know how she does it? With 2 words. Good morning. But she doesn't say them that way. No matter what, it's always, good morning. Good morning. She is conveying, she is controlling the situation with me. No matter what I've got to talk about or whatever, she's like, let's start this on a happy note, which makes it easier for me to continue it on a happy note. So remember, what's important in relationships, whether it's your dog, your spouse, or your child, or the kids at school, and there's my dog stretching behind me, is to make people have a good feeling when you leave them. And you can do that starting today. Thanks for joining me. If you're part of our complaint-free meditation program, we're going to be meditating in just a few minutes. We are going to work today on teaching our minds even more to sit and stay and to find the beauty that is within us so that we are less anxious going through our day. That's the number one side effect people are reporting. I hate to tell you. If you want to hang on to your anxiety, don't join the complaint-free meditation program because it's going to diminish and go away. Thanks so much, everybody. Look forward to being with you again tomorrow. Again, share this. Tell your friends what's going on and let them have better relationships as well. Who knows? They may begin to smile at you more. Enjoy today. We'll talk tomorrow. Bye-bye.
No more complaining people, their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more